r/Nosleep. Posted by u/GamerTrain01. I work at a gaming cafe and it has a few strange rules. Part 2. It was a long drive back home. Even at 7 a.m. there was still plenty of traffic on the road. I fumbled for my keys and opened the door. I didn't have the energy to call up my boss. My stomach rumbled, but there was no way I could eat something after what I just saw. I'd go to bed for now and call my boss once I got up. I woke up to the dull, orange rays of the evening on my face. It was 5 p.m., 4 hours until I had to go back to that hellhole again. No better time to call my boss. I picked up my phone and dialed her number. She picked up a few seconds later. "What?" she said in a gruff voice. Not very polite, was she? "I think you might have forgotten to mention a few things in the interview," I said. "Every newcomer says that, so what? You want to quit?" "Every? How many people were there before me? If I quit I'll be out on the streets. If you want me to deal with demon dogs and ghost computers then I'm gonna need a raise," I said firmly. There wasn't a chance I would continue this job without a doubling of my pay, even if it meant living on the streets. "So how much do you want? $50 an hour is fine, I suppose?" "Yeah, that's enough," I said in a monotonous voice. "Right then, see you." $50 is more than 3 times my original pay. Frankly, I didn't expect more than half that, but wasn't going to argue. I turned on my laptop and played Doom Eternal for a while. I was fortunate enough to have a rich friend willing to gift me games I'm too broke to buy. Before I knew it, it was 9 p.m. I put on my coat and prepared myself for another night in purgatory. I arrived 10 minutes early, but I didn't go inside. I'm not gonna work for a second more than I'm supposed to. I walked inside. The guy at the counter gave me a gruff look and said, "New guy, huh? Wonder how long you'll last." I didn't really say anything to the man as he walked out. I was already feeling horrified as I took my place behind the front desk. The minute hand hit 47. The hooded man appeared in the cameras. This time I didn't hesitate. I grabbed the gun, ran outside and shot him twice in the head and went back in. Killing one human is better than letting that dog outside again. Apart from that, there was a dude wearing neon sports shorts walking to the entrance. I didn't really want to explain to this guy why he couldn't enter the store, not like he would believe me anyway, so I just ran to the front door and locked from the inside. He shook the door a bit and yelled for someone to open the door, but he went away eventually. At about midnight, one of the PCs that was switched off turned on. 4. If at any moment any of the PCs or consoles that are turned off turn on by themselves, smash them to pieces and throw them into the bin in the break room. There wasn't anything to break it with, so I just grabbed the monitor and threw it at the PC case. They both fell from the top of the shelf and shattered into pieces. Unfortunately, it seems like the customers won't notice this didn't apply to this situation. "What the hell are you doing, man?" the guy beside me yelled. "Chillax, this is a part of my job," I said, knowing full well he wouldn't believe me. "Yeah, no way, I'm calling the cops." "Seriously, this is a part of my job, I'm not joking, you can talk to the manager." Too late, he already called them. I pulled out my handgun. "Hand the phone over." He looked pale enough to be mistaken for a vampire. I really did not like doing this, but if the cops came over and one of them broke a rule, it'd be a massacre. "Make a sound and you're dead," I said, looking him dead in the eye. He quietly handed the phone over. I continued to point my gun at him in case he tried anything. "Yes, what is the reason for your call?" the lady on the phone said. "I am really sorry, my nephew thought it would be funny to call the cops because he ran out of ketchup," I blabbered. There was no way she was buying this bullshit. "Oh, is that it? What, aren't you suspicious?" I said and immediately regretted saying. "Not really, this happens way more often than you think. I've been working here for 10 years now, so I'm quite used to it." "Oh, alright then," I hang up. I looked over to the guy and told him to scram. "I have your email and address on the system, so don't you try calling the cops. I'll leave you alone as long you don't." "I promise I won't. Can I leave please?" he said, staring at my gun. I let him go but didn't return his phone in case he calls the cops when he goes outside. Surprisingly, I didn't feel all that guilty. I sat down on my chair and waited for the next rule to take place. It didn't take very long. Just 20 minutes after I threatened to murder someone, a guy with a large brim hat entered the store. I was kind of expecting this since we had only one customer that night. I'm not sure I would call it a man or a woman. He or she looked like both at the same time, so it shall be called it. Hat was sort of misleading. It was odd, looked like it was made of metal. On closer inspection it didn't, but then it did again. It had a circular ring of holes on the top and it drooped low enough to cover its face. Beautiful sun out today, huh? What? Yeah, I guess so. It was mostly cloudy though, I said, feeling uneasy. Are you trying to insult my father? It said, tilting its head up, but not enough for me to see its face. No, of course not, I was scared. The bottom of its coat seemed to stretch on out forever. Good, that's good. You don't want to anger me, it's a sin. I wouldn't dream of it. I apologize if I caused you any discomfort, I added hastily, trying to sound sincere. It looked at me for a second and walked away. Instantly I felt much better. About an hour later a guy entered the store. Not a second later I heard something running above me in the vents. There were 4 distinct thuds. The thing was a quadruped, as if it needed to be any more horrifying. It ran around above me for a couple of minutes, each thud sending a spike of fear through my spine. It slowed down, running towards the vent opening, and just stopped. I imagined it looking down at me on all fours. I felt like puking. It just stopped there, didn't knock or do anything. Looking at the clock, only 2 minutes had passed, but it felt like I'd been sitting there for an hour. Finally, I heard its footsteps recede. Nothing eventful happened until 5:15 a.m., when that thing was supposed to get out of the refrigerator. The thing got out again, slowly making its way towards me. Something was different. It moved much quicker, almost in a hurried fashion, staggering with each step, brown liquid oozing out of its injuries. It came much closer this time, put its mouth right next to my ear and rasped, "Leave," in a broken voice, barely getting the letters out, and vanished. 10 minutes before my shift was supposed to end, I got a call from my boss asking me to stay in the store since the guy on the morning shift was going to be late the next 3 days for some reason or the other. No, I'm sorry, but I really need to take my dog to the vet. I didn't really have a dog, I just didn't want to stay there any longer than I'm supposed to. Fine, I'll handle the store today, but you need to stay till 10 a.m. tomorrow. I'll double your pay for those 3 hours. How could I say no to that? I arrived at work a bit late the next day. There was a different guy here yesterday. I didn't think much of it and got settled. We had plenty of customers today. The thing in the large brim hat shouldn't show up. At about 3 in the morning, a lady sitting right across from me started to move her face closer and closer to the screen. She grabbed the monitor and pushed right up against her face, repeatedly slamming her face into the monitor. Her nose broke and a huge puddle of blood formed beneath her. I ran up to her and tried pulling her away, but her strength was inhuman. The monitor shut off for a second and flickered back on. On the screen was the woman's face, but it was off. Her face had seams as though it was stitched on, too tight in some parts, too loose in others. Her eyes didn't seem to focus on anything, just staring blindly into the distance, her smile so wide, it tore her lips, the mouth stitched shut with fiery red hair, the same as on her head. Her mouth didn't move, but I could hear her calling out to the woman, telling her to come in, telling her she'd be happy here, away from her troubles. The sound of her slamming her head into the monitor brought me back to reality. On the next hit, half her head went inside. I grabbed her legs and started pulling. Whatever was pulling her from the other side was much stronger than me. There was no chance I'd be able to pull her out. Maybe breaking the monitor would get her out. I grabbed it, but I couldn't move it with her entire body weight to lift along with it. I took out my pistol and shot it until it shut off. The woman was neck deep in the monitor now. I grabbed her legs and heaved. She came out, mostly, her head was missing. I ran to the bathroom and heaved my guts out. When I came out, the body of the woman was a mangled mess. Most of the flesh was missing and the remaining had bite marks, human teeth. That's what the 8 looked like. I glanced up just in time to see a pale, bloody hand closing the vent opening. I don't sit behind the front desk anymore. The night went uneventfully. The refrigerator lady told me to leave again, sounding more desperate this time. My boss called again when my shift was supposed to end, reminding me that I had to stay till 10 a.m. Are there any morning rules I should know about? I asked. No, nothing happens in the morning. There is one thing though, you might feel a bit sick as it gets closer to 10 a.m. Don't worry, this is normal and happens to all employees. Just sit in your seat and it will pass by itself. I sat waiting. We didn't really have any customers in the morning, so I was all alone in the store. As the clock approached 10 o'clock, I started feeling slightly nauseous, but it was bearable. It was still 9:30 and the manager did warn me, so I didn't do anything. The slight nausea became progressively worse over the next few minutes. I felt ready to puke out my guts. I ran to the washroom and slammed the door, tried pushing my food out. It reached my throat but didn't go out. Where my mouth should have been was a smooth scar in the shape of a smile. My skin started flaking, peeling away to reveal a smooth black surface, my pupils turning a pale and gray. They looked glassy, like dead man's eyes. I looked like a monster. I looked like one of them. Something hit me on the back of my head. I could feel blood pouring down my head. The last thing I saw before I fainted was her face. I woke in a dark, dilapidated room, tied up. My boss was standing before me, an iron rod in her hand stained black with my blood. "You're the third one," she said, looking at me. I didn't say anything, I had no mouth. "What cat got your tongue?" "Sorry, well, you're probably wondering why you're tied up here and why you look like a freak," she said, walking up to me. "I'll give you the answer to the second question first. Anyone who spends 12 hours inside this building becomes part of it, turns into a monster. My husband used to work here, just like you. His boss asked him to stay overtime. When I came to pick him up in the morning, all that greeted me was a mangled corpse. That's not right, it wasn't a corpse, it was very much alive, twisting and jerking, trying to reach me. I didn't know what to do with myself after that, spent a few weeks shut inside my house, that is until I shouldn't be telling you this. All you need to know is, I know how to turn my husband back into a human. By turning other humans into monsters, it takes 5 sacrifices to bring someone back. If you behave, I'll change you back, eventually." The lady in the refrigerator was the first. I should have listened to her. She's stuck in there, a million tiny holes in her body, only relieved for a handful of seconds a day. The thing in the vents was second. He's doomed to run the vents endlessly, searching for an exit that doesn't exist. I am the third. Number 9. If you look under your desk and see a pair of glowing white eyes staring back at you, run.